By the time the gavel hit wood, the fines disappeared. My gate fob beeped green again. And the woman who had spent a week trying to make me small was handing over her binder like it burned her palms. 10 days earlier, I was just the quiet new guy with a cedar planter box. Tonight, phones were up in the Pine Hollow clubhouse, and people were whispering my name like I was braver than I felt. My name is Miles Carter. I moved here for dumb reasons. That still makes sense to me, the smell of wet pine after a storm. The way the hills turn blue at 6 a.m., the hollow clack our mailbox makes when it shuts. I fix broken software for a living and spend the rest of my time trying to keep my blood pressure boring. Calm is kind of my brand, or it was before a Saturday morning knock tested the version of me that prefers swallowing anger to tasting it. 3 hits on the door. Not polite, not curious. Just the rhythm of someone who practices authority for sport. I opened in a t-shirt of coffee. Steam in my face, my old dog, Tucker, breathing heavy against the back door. And there she was, blonde. Bob clipboard. A smile that said, "I'm about to ruin your day, but I'll keep it professional." "Good morning," she sang. Cheryl Baxter, Pine Hollow HOA president. We need to discuss several compliance matters. She held up a pink slip, like a magician revealing a dove $600 for an unapproved structure, my waist-high cedar planter that came with the house, plus $150 because my trash bin was visible at 6:07 a.m., plus a warning about the navy birdhouse I painted with my niece. I asked section. "What, because I use words when my brain wants to throw furniture," she said. "No need to get adversarial. It's in the aesthetic guidelines." "You have 72 hours to correct. We can suspend amenities and initiate further action." The way she said. Further action sounded like a medieval catapult aimed at my porch. I told her I'd read the guidelines and followed the appeal process. I photographed the notice in her lanyard because my mother raised me to document crazy. "For your records," she said with that clipped smile, then snapped a picture of my driveway on the way down the steps across the street. Nina Park buckled her toddler into a stroller and shot me a look that said, "That woman enjoys this 2 houses down." Eddie Morales lifted his coffee in a slow salute that translated to, "I've seen this movie." I tried to be the version of myself I like. I watered the planter. Skimmed 38 pages of CC&Rs, while Tucker judged me from a sunbeam. The more I read, the more it felt like someone had sprinkled at board discretion over everything. Like pepper fine, if rules are rules, not fine, when interpretation means never wrong. By noon, I sent a polite email. "Please confirm the appeal process and cite the sections for the fines issued today." The reply arrived at 2:14 a.m. Sunday. Per policy, payment is due within 72 hours. Appeal may be requested. Following payment in full. Not a single citation. Not even a name that afternoon. My gate fob failed at the pool. A tow tag appeared on my truck for overnight street parking, while my truck sat in my driveway. And when I walked Tucker at dusk, a black SUV rolled slow windows down. 2 guys in matching polos embroidered Pine Hollow compliance biceps first posture. They photographed my mailbox like it was evidence they didn't wave. I don't scare easy, but adrenaline makes my hands colder than they should be. I stood in my kitchen with the light off, looking at my own house like it belonged to someone else. I almost paid just to make it stop, then I pictured my niece, tongue out carefully, painting the birdhouse roof. And I heard my dad's voice that only shows up when I'm on the edge of dumb or brave. "You know how to read. Son, use it. So Monday morning, I turned my dining table into a war room printer, humming sticky notes, breeding highlighter, bleeding through thin paper. I learned Pine Hollow requires a 10-day cure period. Before fines, planters. Under 24 inches in natural wood are pre-approved appeals. Don't require prepayment. 3 different sections say reasonable notice. None of that matched a 72-hour deadline and a 2:14 a.m. email at lunch. I knocked on Eddie's door with a stack, he said. They got me last summer for a basketball hoop my 8-year-old couldn't dunk on if he had a trampoline. I asked if he fought it. He shrugged. Cheryl told me the board has discretion. I paid. She bleeds you by paper until you give up. That's her thing. Nina rolled up with the stroller and a clip-on camera. I film everything. She said, matter of fact. You want the doorbell of your chat with her. We watched my own face process, a $600 fine. Like I was auditioning for a commercial called Men Who Swallow Their Rage. I grabbed the footage, then emailed again this time. CCing the property manager from the newsletter footer, asking for the vote, authorizing Pine Hollow compliance patrols, and requesting a records inspection. Show me the receipts that night. 2 things happened, a real human wrote. We have received your request and will respond within 5 business days. And the black SUV returned slower, like it could smell a rule. The passenger filmed my windows while pretending he wasn't filming. Nina stepped off the curb like a traffic cone. Names, she said. Calm, but not soft. You're on our street. Who are you? The driver smirked. Volunteers, he said. Neighborhood watch. Great, Nina answered. Then waved to the neighborhood phone high. They rolled on. The next afternoon, the first packet arrived minutes with black bars, like an overzealous spy novel. A list of violation codes without signatures, and an invoice for community patrol services. Cedar Shield, LLC. I read it 3 times before the twist snapped into focus. Cheryl's last name is Baxter. Cedar Shield's owner of record is her cousin. The HOA was paying her family business to patrol our block, and the minutes showed no vote. Approving that vendor, yeah, that happened. I called a friend who knew a lawyer who eats HOAs for breakfast and met Riley Corbin over grainy Zoom bookshelf full of case law. She scanned my stack and said, short version. They're banking on your ignorance. Send a cease of improper enforcement. Cite cure period and appeal. Rights request a special meeting. If your docs allow copy, the manager. And the entire board be boring and undeniable. I asked if I needed to yell. She smiled. You need them to quote the source of their power. I sent the letter, CC'd the world, asked for the vote, authorizing Cedar Shield the policy that allowed 72-hour deadlines, and the name behind the 2. 14 a.m. emails. By dusk, a petition for a special meeting was moving like a current along Pine Hollow. Nina had it on a clipboard. Eddie was knocking doors. The property manager emailed that my amenity access was restored. Pending review. Which is bureaucrat. For we might be in trouble, a notice went out setting the meeting for Thursday, 7 p.m. Agenda enforcement practices. Contractor, authorization, homeowner, appeal. It felt like a fight I didn't want and couldn't sue. Skip Tucker snored on the rug while I slid my pages into a cheap black binder that made me feel like I belonged at a podium. The clubhouse was packed folding chairs, pressed to the back wall, a hum in the air that sounded like camp before a storm. Cheryl opened with decorum. The microphone squealed at the word. She stared at me. A beat too long. Comments limited to 2 minutes. Disruptions removed a guy in a Pine Hollow pickleball tee, laughed once and coughed to hide it. Nina went first, would foot nothing with a cafeteria-proof voice. I like rules, I don't like men. With no ID taking pictures of my neighbor's windows. If you hired Cedar Shield, show the contract if you didn't tell us who let them patrol. Eddie followed boots heavy on tile. I paid a fine for a hoop, my nephew cried over. That's on me, this isn't. You can't make up rules as you go. That's not protection. That's power. For sport, they called my name, and I told mine not dramatic, not clever, deeply ordinary. Infuriating week Saturday, 6:12 a.m. Find 6 hunt for a planter. Your own guidelines pre-approved told. I had sin 2 hours. When the documents say 10 days, gate fob deactivated, even though access isn't leverage. During disputes, invoice to Cedar Shield with no corresponding vote in minutes. I put each page on the projector, watched the room read with me, watched shoulders tighten and eyes narrow. Cheryl smiled like a realtor. Sometimes residents misinterpret guidelines. Our intent is consistency and safety. Great, I said, because I couldn't help myself then cite the section that allows the 72-hour deadline, or the one that says pay before appeal, or the vote. Where you hired your cousin's company to wander our block at night. The room made that sound. People make when they smell lightning. Cheryl tapped the gavel for control. Operational discretion has been delegated to the president. When urgent action is required, discretion isn't a blank check, I said. And my planter isn't urgent, quote. Your source. I brought a highlighter. Laughter rolled like a relief valve. A quieter board member leaned into her mic. The board did not vote on Cedar Shield, she said, not looking at Cheryl. We were told it was a pilot, the floor tilted. Not victory, just the story. Shifting hands, I turned the binder around. Try the part of your rules that says, notice, cure. Hearing appeal in that order. Try the part that says, contracts require a vote. Try the part where you serve the people paying dues instead of scaring them into compliance. Cheryl snapped back to decorum. We will not be bullied by mobs without authority. This community unravels, and Eddie from the back row didn't ask permission. Motion to remove the president for cause, rescind fines. Issued without notice and cure suspend. Cedar Shield, pending audit, and restore amenities to any household leveraged in a dispute. The parliamentarian flipped pages, lips moving. In order, she said softly. If called by petition and on agenda, it's in order. Cheryl slammed the gavel and got carpet sound. Out of order, she barked anyway. Nina lifted her phone. Not a threat. A record. We are homeowners. We're the board's boss. Hands rose, some high, some shaking. The secretary counted. The manager announced. Motion carries. No cheers, yes. That long breath. A room takes when a knot finally loosens. The manager didn't gloat, she stood. Held out her hand, waited. Cheryl placed the gavel, then the heavy binder, and walked out. Without saying my name, fines rescinded immediately. Amenity access. Can't be used as leverage. Independent audit on enforcement and vendors. Door clicked shut, and the celebration was silence. You'd think that's the neat ending. But neighborhoods aren't movies. The forum lit up in the morning half. Thank yous, half. You just invited chaos. Some folks said, rules. Keep property values up. What's so hard about hiding a trash can, others? Said rules without fairness are just costumes for control. I drank my coffee and let strangers tell me who I am. Nina texted a screenshot. Maybe he wanted attention. It said, "Never trust people who make themselves the hero of their own story." I laughed. If anyone writes how to make me check out, that's chapter 1. I never wanted to be a hero. I wanted cilantro in the planter and a navy birdhouse on a breezy porch. You know what I mean? That afternoon, a woman told me her family fought over a Christmas wreath, and she paid a fine. Just to stop the fight at home, a teenager said the meeting was kinda thick, which I decided means, "Thank you, Eddie mentioned board elections next month," and didn't say run. I told him I like my blood pressure, where it is we both knew that was not an answer. If you're waiting for a moral, I don't have one tidy enough to stitch on a pillow. I've got a test I'll use from now on. When power speaks, can it quote its source? When a rule stings, can someone point to the line and read it back to you? When a neighbor knocks with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, can you be boring and undeniable until the room sees what you see tonight? Pine Hollow smells like rain and charcoal and a teenage boy's cologne trying to fight his laundry. The rules will help with the storm. The neighbors will help with everything else. And here's the part that starts. Arguments. I don't think Cheryl is evil. I think she liked control, confused consistency with correctness, and assumed quiet meant easy in a different week. I could have been wrong about something and she could have been right, and I would have apologized with the same highlighter, bleeding through the same pages. It's not good. Guy wins, bad guy loses. It's people. That's why it matters. If this hits something in you, tell me where you land. Is strict enforcement the price of pretty streets or a mask people wear to boss their neighbors around? Have you ever paid just to make it stop, or stood your ground? And made power quote its source. Drop your story below. Push back. If you disagree, call out what I missed. And if you want more human messy, sometimes funny, sometimes it's hard. Stories like this, hit subscribe, leave a like, and tell me where you're watching from. I'll be the guy with the dog and the binder still calm, still ready.